we have the potential to limit ourselves.
Yes.
When we feel the need to just like be so bent up out of shape on a title, on one thing, on seeing one thing come to pass. I don't believe that we are meant to just do one thing.
Absolutely not. Purpose is a foundation, right? I consider it like, if I think about a pyramid, purpose is a foundation, but our assignments kind of going up, shift and change over time. He will shift and change things over time. He gives you different assignments. He might give you a different target audience. He might be moving you into a different area, but your purpose is the same. Purpose is not a destination. When you get there, it ain't to stop on the train tracks and you gonna get off. Baby, no. The train's gonna keep moving, okay? It is a whole journey.
Y'all, this conversation it's just too good. Part 2 with Dr. LaTanya Moore. I can't wait. This conversation is so amazing.
So in December, I was ending the year, and the Lord had me, I do prayer calls every first of the year. And the Lord told me that to tell my community that they had become too common with him. And when you said leave room, it just made me think of that word, because sometimes we become so common with God. We're used to him showing up in the same way. We're used to him doing the same thing. We're used to the way that, he speaks to us, and that we don't leave room for something different to happen. Right. And I believe that this season is a season of uncommon encounters, that this is the place, the time, the space where you're going to see God in different ways. But it's because you've been intentional to say, God, I leave room. I leave space. I give you permission to search any of these things, to move my to-do list, whatever it is, so that you can have any uncommon encounter with God. Oh my gosh. When I tell you, you can see elevation, let me tell you something. Elevation. Elevation. Yes. And it will be evident.
There will be evidence.
Okay. There will be evidence.
Well, thanks for joining. I'm just kidding. I'm like, I don't even have a follow-up. But truthfully, like that's just on me so heavily right now, because I am a control freak. I am a planner. I see things the way they should be. And when I say like God has just had to work with me on that, because it's like you have this vision of how you see things unfolding. And I think that's also why me personally, I have beef with like resolutions. Yeah. And like this is where I'm going to be in 365 days. Yeah. Because you get your mind made up about how things need to progress and unfold. And when they don't, you're crushed. Or when they don't, you're kind of, you take a few steps back because you're discouraged. Yeah. And I think that God really just wants us to create a space for him to enter and to move, like to do what he wants to do versus what we see ourselves doing. Last year, I had a similar experience of my own with, being a creator and creating content, specifically around like skincare and makeup. And I had entered or applied for the Sephora Squad, which is like, I think it's a year-long partnership with Sephora and other brands or other retailers within the store, where you get to create content, but obviously have brand deals, build relationships, make money, build revenue, all these other things. And I found myself just believing so hard for this to happen. I had made myself believe that God was going to do it. Yeah. And it was great. I had, I was in my word. I was spending intentional time. Yeah. But it was all on the basis of this one thing happening. Right. And when it didn't, the day when the results were supposed to come out, I'll never forget, this was May 8, 2023. And I have it on a sticky note right over there. God told me that from this day forward, you would never be the same. Ooh. And I was like, oh, I'm about to get this opportunity. I'll never be the same. Plot twist, I didn't get it.
Lauren said, I have something better for you.
But from that day forward, I have never been the same, because he told me that. Yeah. And I leaned into relationship, and I leaned into what it was that he wanted to do in me. And I've never been the same. Yeah. And now here we are, we're recording a podcast episode, in a space that is so personal, near and dear. And I received a message earlier this week where it's actually Stephen Furtick, who pastors Elevation Church, but he spoke about, I think the specific sermon, if y'all want to look it up, it's called Knocking Through the No or something like that. Ooh. But he talks about not necessarily building a room, but not waiting on God to open the door. Like essentially what he's saying is like, you're already in the door. Like stop assuming that because you don't see him working, because you don't see him moving, that there is nothing happening. But God literally told me through that sermon that, build the room.
Yeah.
And I built the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's just like, it's so special because we wait for God to move or to do these very specific things and for us to never be the same, for elevation, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
But it just comes in such different forms and facets. And I just think that's so kind.
One of the things I heard from that is that sometimes, I want to say sometimes, but this is for you. This isn't for sometimes.
Give it to me.
Somebody.
Give it to me.
While you were going through that experience, God was molding, shifting, shaping you, right? And though the experience would have been a great one, a perfect one to have, it would have fit you or caused you to fit into a box that he has called you to be outside of. And so that protection, not rejection, that happened for you allowed you to stretch your arms out, stretch your heart, stretch your mind, stretch yourself so that you might hear and receive the new opportunities that he has for you. And even in that process, he allowed you, allowed you to believe, to get your belief up.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. And I received it because
if you can believe for something that hard, it's some other things out here that he's going to call you to believe for and to have faith for, right? To take that action and those steps for. That opportunity, from what I'm seeing now, it's like I'm seeing it in spirit, but it's like you were waiting. God says you're going to be doing while you wait. The things that he's called you to do, you're going to be doing while you wait. And that is how he's going to expand your mindset. He's going to expand your territory, all because you're doing while you're waiting on his instruction.
And that's the key. Like if there's anything that I feel I can share, it's that. Like if there's anything that I can use to encourage, because that's what I feel like my purpose is, to encourage and connect people to one another. Like the entire purpose around the Minor Detail was to connect women to one another, or to resources, to be a link that builds a blueprint, right? Or that helps kind of like shift you into the direction of you building your own blueprint, because they don't exist, right?
Yeah.
We get into life and adulthood and navigating womanhood specifically, and we expect for the answers to be there, and they're not.
Yeah.
And to be able to do while waiting is so special, and it's hard sometimes.
Oh yeah.
I remember saying a few times, like, it feels hard and it is hard, but it's not hard. I don't really know.
Lord, thank you for your grace.
For sure. Exactly. And that's what it is, right?
Yeah.
But when we talk about blueprint, that's another thing that is so special about you, because you're literally helping leaders and visionaries and CEOs, right? We were talking about niches earlier.
Yeah.
I think there's levels to this, obviously, right?
Absolutely.
You're coming in, you're trying to figure out your purpose. You're trying to understand, like, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? But then you get to a point where you're like, I know, and I'm doing it. Yep. I'm doing it, but I could just use a little bit more clarity.
Yes.
Or I could just, I want to get through procrastinating and doubting the things that I know I possess.
Yeah.
What has that been like for you? Because I'm like, you get to work with people day in, day out on this.
Yes. Well, let me just say, oftentimes God uses us, right? Our stories, the things that we have gone through, the things that he's shown us in prayer to then help other people, right? And so I found myself in this space where I was elevating and also realizing like what I needed through the elevation. When I came out on the other side of the elevation, that is when he began to show me how I was supposed to reach back and bring people forward, right? And help them through that process. And so God began to give me language to help people understand what that process looked like. And I love this language. I literally just started using it like months ago. Okay. But the Lord began to show me that there were some kingdom builders, CEOs, visionaries, leaders who were in the alley, not to be confused with the valley. You are not below. You're not down. You're not, in a place where you have to come up. You're literally in between two building phases, right? Things are shifting and transitioning. And I don't know about you. Have you ever been in the alley before and you're like, okay, listen, let me just look around a little bit because I don't really trust everybody.
First of all, I don't do alleys.
Okay. Let me just look back because I'm a little bit paranoid. I don't know who I can trust around here. Let me look. Ooh. And then there's some things that you need to sustain in that one building, but also the keys. You need the keys to really get into that next building, next phase of building. And so that is the audience that I work with now. I am so honored. I feel so grateful right now to work with them because, baby, they're going through. you're just going through, you know what I mean? And the reason why I say that is because I get the chance to, one, help them see who they are becoming.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that I see all the time, right? That so many people who come to me, and this takes a higher level of thinking. So many people come to me, they'll say, I want to do these things. I want to have these things, but I need to become this person to do and have these things. Oh, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
Because you have to become in the process. And so I have the opportunity to help them see. Here's what my background was, the setup. I help, my therapy brain helps them to see where they are right now and how they got there. I go all the way back to childhood. I'm like, come on, let's talk about your mama and them. And then I go vision, right? That's my whole prophetic brain. The Lord is showing me where they are going so many times that I can't even say it all, right? So I'm getting these glimpses, I'm getting these things, and I'm like, okay, I know where they're going, right? And I can share some of it. Not all the time I can share all of it. But in that organizational brain, right in the middle, helps me to strategize what they need to actually get there, right? So I believe that once you get to that place, right, as a leader, God begins to stretch you and pull you, and you can't do it all alone. This is so much more than delegation. This is like the guidance that you need. And it's okay to have that guidance as well.
For sure.
Yeah.
And that's a necessary layer of being a leader. I was talking to Key earlier, and I was telling her, she's like, what's going on in life? How are you? I was like, I'm doing good. Truthfully, it's such a commitment to walk in this thing. Like it takes a heightened level of like just being grounded and being a leader, like you said, to delegate, but also to trust yourself, to trust God, to trust your instincts. Because a lot of times there's so many choices and decisions that you can be making. Yes. But you're like, which one is the right one? Which one is worth it? Like which one is going to breed XYZ results? You know what I mean? It's like you're constantly calculating.
Yep. But you're going there. And that's what I love about the fact that you all are having that conversation, because you're like, there's so many things, but you're actually doing it, right? So many people pause, or they don't move into that phase of like leveling up is what I call it. They don't move into that phase of leveling up because they're afraid of that responsibility. It is a new level of responsibility, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes. And with responsibility comes just committing to that and holding yourself accountable and just doing the thing. Like anytime I think about not wanting to do something or procrastinating, that's when I know I need to be doing it.
Right. That is like, okay, all right. So what is my thing is like, what is the root of this? Like, what is it that I'm avoiding?
Exactly.
Here?
Yeah. So technically, tell me some of the ways that you are able to help your clients strategize. I have such a strategy brain. It excites me. I also didn't realize that strategy is biblical as well. I found myself in Nehemiah at the end of the year. And if you're familiar with the story of Nehemiah, but for those listening in, essentially, he goes to God. He's like, hey, we having this problem. I want to solve it. God is like, okay, let me know what you need. He already knew. He gave him a list. He was like, I'm gonna go get permission from the king. I'm paraphrasing horribly. He's like, I'm gonna go get permission from the king because again, with each level comes, there's something above you, right? That you need permission from. He gets that permission and then he goes to work, and then he gets his people, he gets his team, and they build.
Listen, so that's your favorite strategy story. My favorite strategy story in the Bible is Jethro and Moses. Moses is in the place where he's like leading all these people, and Jethro, his father-in-law, was like, bro, what are you doing? It's a lot of people coming to you right now. We need to put these people in place. We need to get this structure in place, right? And then begin to plan, So yeah, I love that we have cool Bible stories that are
unrelated. Jethro is such an old name.
Yes, I love me some Jethro. Okay, I love Jethro.
I like that. That sounds like a dog name. Like people who like to name their dogs crazy stuff.
Name my dog Jethro.
Sorry, my brain.
Come on, get your strategy in place.
Interest of thought. Sorry, strategy. Go ahead.
It's okay. So one of the first strategies that I feel like everyone needs is prayer strategy. Right. So I always listen to my clients and what they feel like, they desire, what they feel like their pain points are, all of those things. But one of the things that I normally do first is think about a prayer strategy. That means getting prayer points and things of that nature together, and a warfare strategy. Mm-hmm. Because think it not strange, okay, King James, that you are gonna start to that King James version.
I know. I was gonna say my brain said cannot compute. Break it down.
It's interesting when you start to move into those areas where God is sending you, right? You start to stretch and break through, you're going to experience warfare.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So I tell people to prepare for it. So one of the first strategies or blueprints, part of the blueprint that I put together is helping them understand their prayer points, helping them understand the things that they should be, praying for right now. And a lot of times, 99.9% of the time, it's around heart posture.
Mm-hmm. Every time.
Baby, your heart has got to be right.
Every time.
Okay. So prayer points and then warfare strategies. I like to say, because I'm a therapist and because I lived the life of a therapist, I had people who were suicidal like often, right? And I would have to create these suicide prevention plans or these suicide like safety plans, right? So now I help people create spiritual safety plans, right? Who are you going to call? What scriptures are you going to read? What music are you going to listen to? Like, I started to do that for myself. Game changer. Let me tell you something. I know myself so well that that my friends know exactly what to text me. I text them the text that I needed them to text me. So whenever I need it, I just tell them and they send it. So I help people do things like that. So that's one of the first things. The second thing is the area of becoming, right? And that area is so important because most of the time, if you're feeling that fear, if you're feeling that doubt, if you're feeling that resistance, then there's something in you that's saying, here's how I have to show up and I'm not necessarily ready for that. Or I don't feel like I have the skills, the tools, the resources, right? And so we work through that area. And then we actually build out. All right, so you want to get here to this next place. You want to launch this thing. You want to build this team. I have a pastor right now that I'm working with. You want to build this church. That was never in my plan. Okay. Never in my plan. I was like, Lord, why you having me work with pastors? What's going on? And the Lord was like,
it's 2024. This is what they saying. This is the year of I don't know, of uncovering, of bringing all the things
exposure.
Out. Exposure. Yes.
My client roster is I'm working with someone right now who owns a bakery. I'm working with a pastor. I'm working with someone who's launching a ministry. I'm working with someone who is launching retreats. Like, it's so vast what I do, but the premises is still the same, right? Mm-hmm. So the blueprint starts again with those prayer strategies, then that becoming strategy. And then we get to, all right, what is the end result that you desire and how do we strategize to get there? So I have all the business modality too, you know what I mean? Helping people get through, what are the funnels we need to build, right. Marketing, all those things. But yeah.
I love it. I love how you married the two.
Yes. That's why I said, so it took me a little while to get here. And that is why you have to be open when God starts shifting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, lean into the shift. Because when he started to shift me, I was like, no, I want to be over here. But no, when he started to shift, he basically started to bring all of that expertise together at one time.
For sure. So for you, what does success for your clients look like?
Ooh, I think it's different for every client. So for some clients, it is having whatever it is that God has shown them launched, right? Having the keys to the building, having the bakery all mapped out, the job descriptions done, something is tactical, right? Mm-hmm. And technical is that. But for some of them, it is that I am a different person, right? That I believe in myself enough to lead these people, that I have leadership strategies, that I'm running my business like a kingdom business and not just a Christian who owns a business.
Now break that down. What's the difference?
Baby, there's a difference. Every Christian who owns a business is not running a kingdom business. Mm-hmm. If you are not living on kingdom principles, first of all, the Lord told us to serve and the Lord told us to multiply. The Lord told us that there are some kingdom principles that we need to be standing in and on in order for us to see what God said. And oftentimes that requires us to go against what the world is doing. Imagine that. This thing is trending. You want to jump on the trend. Girl. And the Lord says, no. I didn't call you to fall into the trend. I called you to stand out, right? And that means that you have the things in place. Jesus is at the center of your business. We can see the values, through anything that you do. That doesn't mean you have to slap, his name on everything either. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't mean you have to name your business something that's related to the Bible. However, it means that Jesus is at the center of your business. Your values, your goals are driven from that, right? You know that you are called to serve, who you're called to impact. And that is your first priority. to serve, right? And that you're multiplying. Oh my God. The Lord started to show me multiplication in so many different ways. You're multiplying. He has given us the ability to create wealth. I always say my first wealth is freedom. But a part of that is the provision, right? And it comes along with purpose. So let's run some real kingdom businesses. Let's run some real kingdom businesses where you're going to God every single day. There are times where I tell people, I have planned a campaign, I planned the funnel, I planned this is the offer I'm going to launch. And I would have a dream and the Lord would show me something completely different. Now, am I hurt, crying just a little bit? Yeah, absolutely. I done paid somebody to build this thing out. But it always ends up 10 times better with him, right? Every single morning, I am getting up. When I tell you, I have plans for my business. I commit those things to him. But every single morning I get up, I commit my mind and my thoughts. I commit my heart. I commit my will and my way. And I commit my business. And every single time he gives me some instruction for me to move in that day.
Yeah. So based on what you said, we have purpose, we have principles, and we have provision.
Come on, peas.
I don't know
just
what
like a Baptist preacher.
we love the letter P over here, I guess. Yeah. What I do want to talk a little bit because we've talked about purpose. I loved how you just like woven. Sure. I love how you brought principles into it because I think that again that's another level of overthinking. We feel like we got to slap Jesus on it when it's like the root. Principles. Right. Is it based on, XYZ as you were talking, but provision? I want to talk about that a little bit. Yes. Y'all got time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Because I feel like, oh man, we can go so many ways with provision, but I feel like we don't talk enough about provision from the standpoint of like, what does daily provision in my life look like? But also, as you said, like that's a real result.
Yeah.
Why do we shy away from that so much?
I think because of like the prosperity. I don't really want to call it like the prosperity gospel, but I think that some people, I think like preach and teach prosperity so much that it's turned some people off. And I think that's it. And so one of the things that's interesting is that when you start to study provision for yourself, you realize that it comes with vision. Okay. And the Bible tells us that we have the ability, right, through him. We have the ability to produce wealth. We have the ability to move and step into the things and move mountains, right? And so if that is the case, then we have to think about all the areas of provision. Wealth is just one of them. Money is just one of them. First of all, if we know the Lord, we should be able to go to him and go get a strategy to make some cash. Like, especially if you're prophetic. I tell people all the time, you really hear from God, he should be able to give you something today, right? Using your skills, your talents, your abilities to do so. Using what's in your hands. Come on,
2 Kings 4.
Yeah, what's in your hands, okay? And so when I tell you that provision is so many different things, it is not only just the money, the wealth that's attached to, you living in your purpose, but also think about all the freedoms that come with, the relationships of provision, right? I think about all the times where things have been gifted to me. The things with favor is just, you know what I mean, on me and apparent. And so when I walk in the provision of God, when I tell you, I have so many stories. One of them.
Yeah, I'm like, give it to us. This is story time.
One of them, talk about provision. And this is related to money, but literally obedience breeds provision, right? It brings in the provision that you need. The Lord told me to host a retreat one time, and he showed me the people who need to be at a retreat, and I knew that they were not going to pay for the retreat. The Lord told me to host these 10 people, showed me their faces and everything. I sent them all a message, and I told them that this retreat was going to happen. I told them as long as they can get to Durham, North Carolina at a time on this date, at this time, then all expenses would be covered. And I said, Lord, where the money coming from? That's my first question. Where is the money coming from?
What the money
the Lord says to me, I will provide. When I tell you, I took a credit card, like in that moment, because the Lord told me he would provide, right? I took a credit card. I swiped that credit card. I don't know how many times. I bought flights. I bought hotels. I bought food. I bought everything. I charged up $5,640, which is actually kind of good price for 10 people.
Honestly, yeah.
So I charged up the car, right? Get everybody there. At the end of the retreat, 2 days later, again, God told me I would provide. I felt an urgency in my spirit to add up everything that had been spent. So I go through all the receipts, I look, and I'm like, okay, God, here it is, and I'm like, here it is, you told me you would provide. When I tell you, I get a text message, okay, from my community text number. And it was one of my community members. And she said, hey, Dr. Moore, I'm not sure what's going on, but I feel like the Lord is telling me to sow a $5,000 seed, and I'm scared. I said, girl, I ain't scared. That is for something, okay? Send the cash.
Girl, I ain't scared.
Girl, I ain't scared. So bring it on. Like when I tell you, that's happened to me over and over again. Over and over and over again. God gives me a vision and he will send provision by way of anybody. It's almost like it comes out of my mouth. He puts it in my head, in my heart, for you too, in my head, in your heart. It goes out of your mouth. And I kid you not, it's almost like he places it then in the heart, the hands, the mind of someone else, and they come and they attach to it. Yeah.
You trust God so much.
Let me tell you something.
I've
been out here doing some wild stuff.
I mean,
I will do some wild stuff. Yeah, my faith level is unacceptable in some places. And that sounds crazy.
Unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like people don't want to accept it or believe it. Or they don't believe it.
I've had so many encounters that it's like sometimes I can't even say them. Because that is how, trust me, I've had things like go to pay something and there is no bill. Calling saying it's been paid off. Like I've had crazy, wild faith stories. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm believing in, my student loans.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I need to call in.
Oh, absolutely. The Lord gave me a letter to write to student loans. One day I was praying for it. He told me to take out everything. He said, here, send this letter.
Paid off.
Not paid off yet, but I'm still believing for it. It's going to happen. The letter has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but all things to do with everything.
For sure.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it starts with believing it. I randomly totaled up my debt at the end of the year. Didn't know why. I wanted to get my finances not in order. I had been big on budgeting last year. Right. And so I was like, okay, let's take it a step further. And a lot of times, since we're kind of on the money topic, we will want for more finances, but have no plan.
Yes.
And so it's like God had me start to make the plan before because I had no money goals coming into 2024. I had been there before. I had done the thing. I had, believed in, again, rooted in self-ambition, but believed in X amount of dollars. And at the top of this year, I was like, I don't have any plans. Like, I'm just going to see. So the last 2 days of the year, I just got download on download of what I need to be prioritizing. So now I'm believing in those things, right? But I'm like, they're going to happen eventually. They must. Absolutely. I didn't make this up.
Yeah.
But it's
stewardship.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Stewardship. So good. Because you talked about, of course, like working with your clients and you talked about strategies. But a lot of times, like, that's what faith is. It's like, I'm stewarding over this thing.
Yep. Stewardship is so important. You have to know where, speaking of money, you have to know where your money is going in order to receive more money.
For sure.
You have to steward your money well, right? If we can manage a little, he'll give us more. He'll give us a lot. And so when we think about that, it's like, okay, well, how do I ensure that I actually have room for these things? I got my first international speaking engagement at the end of last year. Well, I think it was like October of last year.
I'm a global CEO.
Global Kingdom CEO. Okay. Do you know the story about me calling myself that every morning?
I do.
Okay.
But I was just reminded when you said international. I said, yeah.
But that just opened up a whole new level of my stewardship. Why? Because I didn't even know how to accept a wire. And I said, wait a minute. If the Lord is calling me global, and now I'm calling myself global, then baby, I better be able to take some international transactions. I had to go down to the bank. I was like, let me open up my account. And so
That's real though. It's the smallest thing.
Things. When I tell you, I started opening up accounts down there. I got accounts with a little bit here and a little bit there. Why? Because I just made room. I made room for increase. I made room. And the moment I made room, baby, they sent that wire. I said, okay, I can accept wires now. I'm just waiting for the next one to come in. Wires are open.
I love the topic of making room though, because it's kind of crazy when you think about it until it's not. Yeah. It's like, okay, I'm just going to do this thing to see. Yeah. And then eventually it's like, you're living in it. You're walking in it. It's so good.
Yeah. From as simple as, making room in your day for him, making room in your closet, right? People believing for a man, like ain't got no room. Things like that.
Oh, like making space. I was thinking prayer closet. You talking about space for him to hang up his things. I'm like,
making room. I mean, making room is such a good word to get anytime. Because you start to think about all the things that you've taken on that are just excess. That you don't necessarily need. Make room for new people too. Yeah.
That's so good. I recently recorded a YouTube video. I think I was telling you that will definitely be out by the time this conversation is. But I was talking about the things that I feel like are 2024 outs.
Okay.
But I really do feel like they were things that God downloaded me during those days I was saying were the last days of the year. And one of them was definitely misplaced energy, meaning like putting our energy into things that we have no business like giving our attention to.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that kind of pulls us away from making room because it's like, it's a distraction. Like you're pouring into things that just aren't really priorities right now or are low priority.
Yeah.
And they're distracting you from what you should be doing. So,
and even when they're fulfilling, it's time for them to go.
For sure. Yeah. Cause fulfillment is like short-lived.
Yeah.
like how they say feelings are fleeting.
Yeah. I really think that it's so interesting that you said that because, as I started to do my outs, right? Just even in my mind initially, I was like, I think that some people, and I'm not the person who's like, oh yeah, this person's got to go. But I am the person who is realizing now that there is a level of conversation that I desire to have that is mentally stimulating to me enough for me to leave a conversation with notes or questions.
Yep.
And if I am not necessarily getting that, then the out isn't necessarily kick the person out of my life, but it is to prioritize my conversations with them lower really on the scale than some of those conversations where I know I'm leaving. When I leave conversations with notes, strategies, and questions, I'm like, ooh, this is good stuff. Like I want to talk to that person more, right? And I try to be that person for people as well, even though my friends, they are so sick of me. They're like, listen, you always got some homework. I'm like, you should go do this. And they're like, here you go again.
I'm tired
of homework. but yeah, I definitely had to shift some of those relationships.
That's real.
Yeah. Or the ones that just pull on you so much. I'm like, I'm tired of being pulled. What you got to offer?
For sure.
Give me something.
It has to be reciprocal.
Yes.
We got to stop acting like, it's this conversation on TikTok around acting like we want low maintenance friendships. And people are like, can we stop? We don't want low maintenance friendships.
Look that up.
Yeah, we want reciprocity.
We do.
In all relationships, like literally platonic, romantic, with your parents, like with your kids if you got them. You want a level of reciprocity there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And when you don't have it, you feel that annoyance or, I'm over this or I don't want to be involved in it anymore. So
especially for those of us who are pourers, right? Even as a content creator, you're pouring often. And so you have to guard yourself, accordingly and differently and really get into those friendships where iron sharpens iron, right? So that then you get filled up enough to then come pour some more.
Yes.
Yeah.
And speaking of content, you are like swinging all the time, constantly showing up.
Oh no!
I feel like every 5 minutes I'm like, yes.
Oh,
in a good way.
I thought you talking about swinging as in like I'm swinging below the belt.
No.
Because people were like, oh, that hit me, and I'm like, ooh, did it?
No, that's called conviction, and that has nothing to do with you. Yeah. you doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Thank you.
When you talked about, because it does take a level. It takes a different level of like, I don't even know, strength to do that all the time.
It does.
To show up.
Yeah. I started to realize, I feel God again. Okay, listen. When the Lord starts to speak to me, yes, and I'm like, okay, Lord, He takes me back to something. So He took me back to just in that moment. We're called to lead, right? We're called as shepherds, and so now there are we're leading people to God's voice, and there are also people assigned to our voice, right? And so we want to lead people somewhere. And oftentimes people are content creators who, especially you on a break, you're doing this, you're doing that. And it's like, okay, you led people somewhere, but you never fed them. And so I started to realize my responsibility in the leading and the feeding. And that is the reason why I'm so consistent, because there's someone looking for what I have. And God is sending people strategically. And I want to make sure that they can get full, that they can be fed, that they know that when they're led into the space that God has called me to create, then they're going to get and receive what God has called them to get.
That is such a word, because creating content is an assignment. Like we have one side of the spectrum where it looks flashy, it looks fun, it's desirable because you're popular, you're famous, you have all this attention and all these followers. But if you do not steward it well, I believe that there is a consequence for that to a certain extent. I believe so too. Especially with it being such a growing industry. I mean, I think content creation is like on its way to being a $4 billion industry this year, by the end of this year. Wow. And I mean, you got kids in grade school who are, what do you want to be when you grow up? A YouTuber.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and that's not a bad thing by any means. I love seeing the transition and the evolution of what social media has been able to provide, but there's also a level of deception that we have to be mindful of.
That's true.
And it's a position that we have to steward well.
Yeah. This reminds me, one, I don't even see, I know I create content, but I hadn't necessarily gotten into the content creation world where, you know, I am doing things for, you know, brand deals, any of those things. Right. So, God hadn't shown that to me right now. But what I do know is that in creating the content, he's told me to be the content, right? So to show up as the example, to give the words, to give the, you know, whatever it is that people need. And so I talk about this concept of Holy Spirit led content. I literally had a whole talk on it, and I need to record it as a course or something because it doesn't even need to live in my head. But I talk about Holy Spirit led content because there are people who are literally waiting for the words that are going to be released, right? And God is using you as the vessel to release them. And so as creators, we have to be so intentional with God's people. We have to talk about stewardship. We have to steward them well, you know? So that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate now about just showing up.
I mean, consistency it doesn't sound easy. It sounds like it might be a challenge. But when you are in this position, it is a challenge sometimes because it's warfare.
Oh, absolutely.
Every single time. A close friend, we were talking about her earlier, Sheree had told me that we were at a retreat and I was opening up to everybody about how I had been feeling a lot of fear. Like, I think it was around my birthday because I always fast into my birthday, but I was feeling a lot of fear and just like, fear around showing up and being consistent. And she came up to me and she was like, Khaila, when I'm in those moments, I tell myself, oh, the devil must be mad today. Like, I must be close. And ever since then, I'm like, oh, you mad? Like, I'm tired, or there's like a spirit of laziness on me a little bit. You know what I mean? Or I shot this earlier and I know I got to wrap the week with a podcast, but I'm just not feeling it. I'm like, oh, snaps me out right instantly. Cause I'm like, this is not about me. And when we start to think about it like it's about us, I think that's when we kind of like, you know, we lose balance a little bit.
Absolutely.
We thread that line.
And we must know our purpose, our value, our assignment in the content creation space, right? Social media, no matter what platform you're on, is a space, right? So what we have is thank you, Holy Spirit, is a war of territory. Yeah. Okay. So you are, as a Christian creator, right, taking territory, and you're also pushing back darkness because they hold territory in those places and spaces as well. So when we know what we are called and what we're purposed to do, baby, we don't just occupy the space. We came to dominate. We came to take dominion over the space because that's what we've been called to do. And so for every content creator out there who is shrinking back on what God has called you to do on your assignment, now is the time for you to get up, get yourself together, remind yourself of your purpose, remind yourself who he has called you to serve, and take dominion in social media and every other space he has called you to. Okay, the brand deal is already yours.
Drops mic. I mean, period. That's it. That's the word. Because I'm
like, why are we shrinking back over something?
Why? Stop it.
I scroll through TikTok and they reading tarot cards on a regular. Girl. I'm like, they taking up whole dominion over here. Like.
And I didn't know how I wanted to articulate it. We got to fight back.
I'm telling you.
And that's what I felt when you said that. And that's what I'm feeling is like, I'm tired is not really an excuse because some days I feel like they're winning. They're not. But some days I'm like, there is so much deception out there. Oh, for sure.
One of my friends and I, we talk about all the time. It's like they are loud and wrong.
Loud and wrong.
loud and wrong. So if they're loud and wrong, why can't we be loud
and right?
Right? Like, come on.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. I was listening to I don't know where he's a pastor of, but it was a podcast I was listening to, and they were having a conversation about like kind of like what it takes to pastor, but the he wasn't talking about the psychology behind it, but the strategy, I guess, is what he would credit communication skills to. Okay. He was saying a lot of times when it comes to Christianity specifically, people want to beat other people over the head with the Bible, right? Oh, yeah. And they want people to know the truth so bad. But when we really think about it, a lot of times people don't always want the truth as an entry point. They want wisdom. And so if we leverage the wisdom as the way to open the door and continue to follow up, we can start to see that shift. Yeah. And that's so real, because when people think about, they're not thinking like, oh, I want wisdom. I want help making this decision. Yeah. I want to know, do I go right or do I go left? And it was just so interesting to me because I am what I believe an expert communicator in some sorts, right? And it's just it's just one of those things I was like, exactly. Because when I think about, my script for the day or what I'm going to record, like, most of the times I am basing that content on wisdom, truthfully. Like I'm talking about, mindset shifts and reframing and self-development and self-growth. Like this is all wisdom. Yeah. And that's what people want. When they click on this video, they want to know how I can do X, Y, Z. Yeah. How I can feel this type of way or how I can make this change, in my career for my business. And I just thought that was so interesting because it's true to a certain, a certain extent.
I love that that you're even taking that approach, because listening to the sermon, right, help you think about that. But wisdom is important all the time. But I agree, people do need wisdom. And I also think they need a different approach. Yeah. Like the generations have changed, like beating them over the head with the Bible just isn't working. You know what I mean? And so sometimes I've realized too that so a lot of those people are still in darkness. Yes. Right. One, you're going to come as a light and agitate. But that's a part of the process. But you don't have to expose right away, right? You sometimes bringing truth is going to expose right away. And I've learned in my ministry that sometimes I need to just build relationship. Yeah, I need to get a little closer. I remember I've dealt with several people lately and been on some platforms even where some of those people were in New Age, witchcraft, sage, what's those things? Crystals, okay. All those things, right? And so I used to be the person years ago, and I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with that, right? So I didn't want to get close to people like that. But now God showed me something different. God was like, no, I'm sending you there. Yeah, I'm sending you there, not for you to thump them over the head with a scripture, but for you to sit with them, right? Be the light, bring the light, and then help them understand the truth through, right, just that relationship. Yes. So it's shifted, right? You're bringing wisdom and helping people encounter God, encounter him through, what you say, how you, set up videos, all those things, right? They can tell the light that's on you. Right?
I would hope so.
Yeah, they can tell the light that's on you. The light. And eventually they begin to wonder, like, where's that light from? How is she receiving this wisdom? Same thing with me, because a lot of mine is through relationship. It's like, okay, wait a minute. So she shows up this way. She talks, she's herself. Baby, I don't change anywhere I go. Okay. I call everybody baby. I talk like this everywhere I go. PhD, no PhD, And so that encounter through relationship, it actually brings them to the truth. Just a different route.
And it feels like love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, yeah, I love you enough to want to be in a relationship. And that's powerful. Alone. Like that alone is strong enough, I think, to get people to just think about things differently. Because some people, I believe this wholeheartedly. I was one of them. Some people just don't know better. Yeah. And that's okay. Because you're learning the wrong thing for so long that you don't really know the right, right from wrong. And so being able to be approached with love, I think, is super helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I definitely think that even for those spaces, what I said, encountering witchcraft, encountering, new age, what have you, I'm like, I'm not going in there to thump them and say, do you understand what this is? Like, do you understand? Nope, that's not what I'm going to do. One of the things that I realized, I'm like, have you researched sage lately? Like, I can just kind of drop that as something like, have you researched sage lately? And so that has opened up so many conversations for me. Oh my goodness. But first it was a relationship. Like, let me get to know her. Let's get to know each other. And then I'm going to tell her this. Yes. Right. Yeah.
I love it. Well, listen, we're going to do some rapid fire questions really quickly before we start to tie things up. This has been fun.
I don't even know what time it is.
Me neither. It doesn't matter. We're here. Right. Exactly. Okay, perfect. So where do we want to start? If you could teleport your clients to any inspiring location for a breakthrough session, where would it be? And what's the first activity you do together?
A tiny home in the woods, secluded. And I would do deliverance.
Oh, took it there.
Yeah, immediately.
That feels extreme, but it's not.
Let's go straight to freedom.
And what's the context behind that? Just to speed up the process? Pull away from distractions?
With a tiny home. I go to tiny homes right now. And it is the best secluded experience ever. There is no Wi-Fi and your cell signal barely works out there. You have one bar. So it is literally a space completely away. There ain't nobody out there but you and God. And then so that releases all the distractions. Yes. And then deliverance first, I would say, because we can go ahead and get to we can pull from the root. Right? No need for me to pluck these little, flowers that you've grown to the top. Let's go straight to the roots.
Yeah.
And clear that out and then begin to fill it with more of its spirit and strategy.
Period. Okay. You're hosting a business coaching talk show. Who would be your dream guest? It could be celebrity. It could be anybody. And what's the burning question you'd ask them?
Business. Shirley Ralph.
Love her.
And it's interesting because most people don't think about her when you think about business. However, she honed her craft. She showed up consistently. She waited her turn and then was recognized. And I want to know what that was like to wait your turn or to feel like you hadn't been placed right in mainstream enough or hadn't been awarded. And then your time suddenly appears.
That's so good. I literally was thinking this morning, like, would you be willing to wait your turn if it meant that God was going to elevate you on his timing? And I was like, yeah, sure. If it meant I could, experience his glory in its purest form, like, I'm not mad at that. Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that.
Yeah. I think I'm going to call her up one day.
You should. Love her. If y'all aren't familiar with Shirley Ralph, I mean, you should be at this point. But Moesha's stepmom, Abbott Elementary. Her kids are really dope too. So that's cool.
Because they were at the awards show. That's the only context I have there.
Yeah.
And they were screaming and stuff in the background.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. What's your go-to strategy for overcoming procrastination and increasing productivity?
Light a candle. No, that's like a first quick strategy. Let's see. Overcoming procrastination. So my friends would probably say I'm a procrastinator and I say I'm Holy Spirit led. Like, I'm like, no, I felt it right now. I'm going to do it right now. You know what I mean? I didn't wait too late. I wait for the perfect time. But yeah, I wouldn't really say that.
Well, maybe it's not. Don't think about yourself. Think of it in the context of a client coming to you. Maybe that'll be helpful.
Oh, okay. So overcoming procrastination, moving into productivity. Block out the time.
See? You knew.
Block out the time. Like most of the time people will say they don't have enough time. That's another word that God gave me for this year. Have y'all noticed that January is moving slow? Does it feel like January is moving slow?
It does.
The Lord told me at the beginning of this year that he is slowing down time for us.
Good.
And he is slowing down time so we can go back in and get the assignments, pull them forward, things that, would have taken us days, things that would have taken us years to do. He's literally slowing down the time so those things can happen in a moment. Okay. So God has slowed down the time for you. Like, go get done whatever it is he's called you to do. It'll happen at an accelerated rate.
Receive that. Thank you very much. That was good. I do feel like January has been slow. Like I meant that. Yeah. I do. Yeah, it's January. Y'all watching this some other time, but it's January right now. Okay, last one. Create a tagline for your business or yourself that captures the essence of your unique being, your unique philosophy.
Oh, I have one.
I mean, that counts.
Can I just use what I have?
I think you can. I figured you would have one. Okay. I mean, I'm like, why would you not? But yes. Maybe you can.
Helping you discover the keys to unlock your next level of clarity, strategy, and confidence. for visionaries, well, I don't really add that part, when you're in the alley.
I love
so
that.
helping you discover the keys to unlock your next level of clarity, strategy, and confidence when you're in the alley.
When you are in the alley.
Yeah. Sometimes I add visionaries, leaders, all those things, but.
Absolutely beautiful. Okay. So before we truly wrap it up, I must know, where are there any projects that you are working on that we can keep an eye out for? Where can we find you, follow you, support you, stalk you, all of that?
Stalk me, yes. I love stalking people. I stalk my clients all the time. I'm like, got all my notifications on. Let's see.
That's a good coach.
Yeah. I'm like, did you post what I said? All right. Well, I have so many things going on. Well, let me keep it short. So you can follow me at the Dr Moore on all platforms.
DR or doctor spelled out?
DR. So THEDRMOORE.
Perfect.
So that's the Dr Moore on all platforms. I just started a YouTube. The Lord told me to start creating these 10-minute videos.
Yes.
And I said to the Lord, ain't nobody watching 10-minute videos. They barely watch 10 seconds. And the Lord said, create these 10-minute videos. And I just posted one.
Girl, do you not know the number of people who love YouTube?
I had no idea.
People love a 10-minute video and it's coming back.
I had no
doubt it.
idea. Mm-hmm. When I tell you, like, none. So yeah, I'm learning all these things right now. So follow my YouTube. I'm a YouTuber. Oh my God.
Yes, you are. You are a YouTuber.
Also, I would love to tell people about my Red Suit Foundation. So I had a vision of wearing a red suit. I was walking on stage on panels in a red suit. In faith, this was a couple years ago. In faith, this was in March. I went to buy a red suit. So I got this spring red suit, right? And then I'm on this podcast recording and I'm telling this story of faith because I make faith moves. Mm-hmm. So this red suit is sitting in my closet and I am invited to speak on a platform. And she's like, girl, I feel Holy Spirit on this whole thing. Please come to speak at my conference. I already chosen the speakers, but I need you there. And she said, and you better be wearing a red suit. And I said, okay. So I pull out my spring red suit to wear in November because it's been sitting in my closet for that long. But then God began to show me that I created something there, right? I gave myself the opportunity to share my voice, to share my story, and to step on stage with unwavering faith. And so now I've created Red Suit Foundation where I teach others to do the same, right? Share their voice, share their story, and step on stage with unwavering faith. We have seminars, Red Talks. We have seminars. And speaking of tagline, I was like, okay, I need me a good tagline for this because I'm just convinced I'm taking over TED Talk at some point.
Period.
Baby, it's gonna be red suit talks everywhere. Okay, yes. We're coming in to paint the city red. Have the city asking who is Ted. All right, so we're gonna elevate this thing.
Who is Ted?
Who is he? Who is he?
I love that.
So yeah, we're gonna be connecting and doing so many things. So follow Red Suit Talks as well, and you can get to that page from my page.
I love it. By the way, I really do think your unique tagline based on your philosophy is I make faith moves. You've said it good. Like 7 times.
Yeah.
I'm guessing. But when you just said it, I said, that's the tagline.
You think that's personal brand or ministry brand?
Personal brand for sure. Both. They go hand in hand. Okay.
I like it.
I'm just saying. I felt it. When you said that last time, I said, that's it. Mm-hmm. That's the one.
I do. I make a lot of faith moves.
You do. Yeah. I make faith moves. It just was so, it stuck out so well.
Nice. Okay. I'll take that. Thank you.
Well, before we go, you must tell us, for those tuning in, especially, as you know, this is the Minor Detail podcast. If there is one minor detail that you want listeners to walk away with today, what is it?
Pay attention to your discernment. I know I had to go deep with it. Whatever you feel in your belly, whatever it is that God is trying to communicate to you, pay attention to those things. They will lead you to new places, new spaces, new areas, new opportunities, and they'll also prevent some things as well. So pay attention to your discernment.
I love that you spoke on it in a positive light first. I feel like we lose that a little bit.
Oh, when we talk about discernment. Yeah. Discernment is good.
For sure.
Yeah. Not just for you to see the negative things, but for you to see the opportunity. Yeah.
Well, there you have it. Dr. LaTanya Moore, everybody give it up. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you y'all so much for tuning in. If you are watching, if you are listening, if this resonated, please share. If you felt as though, someone else could benefit from this conversation because it's not just you, share. Do not forget to do all the things, to like, to subscribe, to stick around, because there will be many, many more. But today we give you thanks. Thank you for being here. This is such a beautiful conversation.
It was.
So grateful to have you on.
I mean, the Lord's going to do what he's going to do, because half of this stuff I didn't plan on talking about.
Me neither. We went off script. And that's the best type of conversation to have.
Yes.
Until next time, we will see y'all later. Bye. Bye. So good. I didn't want to end it. How long was that?